Welcome to the Lumify podcast, where we are going to be going over things like how to protect your family, how to be a better man, and things about America regarding history and politics. If you're a dude, you're probably going to like this a lot. Now, if you want to be a stronger man, you're also in the right place. We're going to have a lot of in-person stuff going on in many of the groups that we're going to have. The first one being here in Southwest Missouri. We have a great group of guys that are helping form the content that will end up here. So you can expect many guests on the podcast in the future as well. If you want to join our Discord community, feel free to check that out on our website, and you can find the link to that. And let's go ahead and hop into the episode. So this episode is going over the content creators online that our children watch, and the first person that kind of came to mind that I went into researching was someone that my family actually ended up dropping as someone that we used to watch, Miss Rachel. So Miss Rachel, whose real name is Rachel Griffin Accurso, is the creator behind the wildly popular YouTube channel called Songs for Littles. It has 10 million subscribers and at this point billions of views. It's marketed as an educational resource for toddlers and preschoolers, focusing on speech development, songs, and basic learning. Her content has become a go-to for parents seeking wholesome screen time. However, beneath the colorful animations and the catchy tunes that get stuck in your head lies a pattern of introducing controversial themes that many argue are inappropriate for young children. From featuring non-binary performers with explicit personal content to inviting high-profile transgender activists, openly promoting LGBTQ ideologies on her personal social media, and aligning with far-left political figures, Miss Rachel's actions have sparked widespread backlash, with critics accusing her of prioritizing progressive activism over child-appropriate education. The analysis I put together draws on public records, social media posts, and reported controversies to highlight how Miss Rachel's platform may be subtly indoctrinating the youngest audiences. While she defends her choices as rooted in love and inclusion, detractors point out that toddlers learning their ABCs don't need exposure to complex gender politics, socialist policies, or activist rhetoric. You'll be absolutely mind blown by some of the stuff you're about to hear inside of this. One of the most criticized aspects of Songs for Littles, the channel, is the inclusion of the one Jules Hoffman, a non-binary transgender and queer musician who has been a recurring guest since the show's early days. Hoffman, who uses they/them pronouns, performs songs and interacts with Miss Rachel in videos that they have aimed at children under the age of 5. We will be referring to her as a her for the rest of this episode. While the show itself doesn't explicitly discuss gender identity, Hoffman's presence and pronoun usage became a flashpoint in early 2023 when conservative parents and influencers highlighted it as an attempt to introduce non-traditional gender concepts to the impressionable kids that watch the show. Videos surfaced on TikTok where parents expressed outrage, with one viral post captioned, "When Miss Rachel introduces they/them/their pronouns, so you have to stop watching her." This led to calls for boycotts, with figures like podcaster Matt Walsh, love the guy, criticizing Hoffman's ambiguous physical presentation as inherently ideological. Miss Rachel took a brief mental health break from TikTok amid all of the online drama, but the content featuring Hoffman remained unchanged and is still on her channel to this day. Defenders note that the show doesn't have overt discussions about gender, it's just songs and play, so what could be the harm? However, Hoffman herself, described her role, as providing representation, stating in interviews that kids absorb how we treat others. In 2023, she posted a response video, and Hoffman turned the controversy into what she called a teachable moment about love and acceptance, singing to kids about kindness among hatred. Yet for many, simply featuring a non-binary person in toddler content does cross a line, especially given Hoffman's off-show activism. Wait till you hear about this. And this isn't just about one guest on the show, it's part of a broader pattern where Miss Rachel's platform exposes children to adult concepts under the guise of education. Digging into Hoffman's background, I was surprised. There's a stark contrast between her on-show persona and her social media persona, raising questions about why Miss Rachel would even collaborate with someone whose online presence includes profane political rants and discussions on gender-affirming surgery. Yes, you heard me right. Hoffman claims to be an eclectic artist based in New Mexico and uses platforms like TikTok and Instagram to share her content that critics argue is incompatible with a children's educator. What's weird about this is kids see her on the show, and as they grow up, they're going to follow her on socials. This is the kind of stuff she's posting right now. In a viral TikTok video, Hoffman is chanting, and plug the kids' ears for a second here. Fuck ICE, rise up, I'm scared for the people, for those who are most vulnerable, end quote. This anti-immigration and custom enforcement rhetoric, those are the ICE rhetoric, laced with profanity, is part of Hoffman's broader activism against Trump-era policies. While adults can engage in such discourse, and they should be allowed to outside of work, associating someone who posts this kind of stuff while appearing on a toddler show has fueled accusations of very poor judgment on behalf of Miss Rachel. Hoffman openly discusses her transgender journey, including a 2024 Instagram post celebrating her top surgery, the removal of her breasts, as one of the best decisions I have ever made. That was her quote. So this is what kids see if they follow her. She identifies as non-binary, trans, and queer, and has shared content about losing rights, anti-Trump sentiments, and in one interview, Hoffman explained her identity to kids as simple acceptance, but critics like Walsh argue that this normalizes confusion for younger viewers. Hoffman's activism extends to events like the Queer Fam Pride Jam, which Miss Rachel has indirectly promoted through her collaborations. Parents now argue that while Hoffman is free to express herself, and like I said, I agree, featuring her on a kid's show without the transparency of all of that is kind of weird. A little misleading for families as well. Miss Rachel escalated the concerns in 2024 by publicly inviting the one Dylan Mulvaney, a transgender woman, so a former man, now woman, so he's a dude. He's also the influencer for the TikTok series Days of Girlhood, and he was the guy in the bathtub during the controversial Bud Light partnership that lost Bud Light like $1 billion. Mulvaney, who faced his own share of backlash for promoting all this stuff, complimented Miss Rachel on an online post, prompting her to respond with, "Hey, you should be on our show, Songs for Littles. We love you and we love your music." This exchange went viral, with conservative voices like Lila Rose calling it unsafe for children and accusing Miss Rachel of putting ideology before innocence. Parents flooded social media with boycott calls, arguing that Mulvaney's adult-themed content, don't look it up, has no place in toddler education. And this isn't isolated. Miss Rachel is aligned with other progressive figures and causes. Her show has been accused of subtle nods, like the rainbow-colored ice cream cones that she uses during colors lessons, interpreted by some as the LGBTQ symbolism inside of her show, and there's many other examples that we could get into. There's even Catholic activists all over the world petitioning to ban her channel in certain countries, Africa being the closest to actually getting this done. And the reason for it is a disguised attempt at indoctrinating children with LGBTQ narratives. Critics see this as a part of a trend where children's creators use trust to push agendas, with one ex-user posting, "Satan is after our children and he uses people like Miss Rachel to get them." Miss Rachel's personal social media, aimed at parents typically, frequently promotes LGBTQ inclusion, which spills over into the perception of her kids' content. In June 2024, she posted a Happy Pride video on TikTok and Instagram, wishing followers a colorful month of love. How nice. When backlash erupted, she doubled down in a follow-up, saying, and just brace yourself, "My faith is really important to me. One reason why I love every neighbor. There is no except in love your neighbor." EXCEPT, accept. Christian faith as justification is absolutely wild to me, and she invoked Bible quotes to defend inclusion, but conservatives like Jack Pasibiak mocked it as claiming, Jesus wanted LGBTQ education for kids. This led to even more boycotts, with parents arguing that pride themes confuse toddlers and contradict traditional values. Even in 2025, as she inked a Netflix deal, old controversies resurfaced again, with her emphasizing that faith and LGBTQ plus support go hand in hand. Critics, including the Gays Against Groomers, question why a toddler educator would even need to wade inside of these waters at all. Miss Rachel frequently cites her Christian faith to justify her promotion of LGBTQ themes, quoting verses like Matthew 22:36 through 40, about loving God and loving others to defend actions such as Pride Month, her posts and collaborations with transgender activists, on and on and on. Conservative Christian leaders and parents argue that this represents a deliberate twisting of Scripture, and I agree, to affirm behaviors of the Bible that the Bible explicitly condemns, such as homosexuality and gender nonconformity. For instance, there's many passages we can go through, but passages like Romans 1:26 and 27, Leviticus 18:22, 1 Corinthians 6:9 through 10 describe the same-sex relationships as sinful, while the classic Genesis 1:27 emphasizes God's creation of humanity as male and female. That was like the old talking line back when this started coming up, 6-7 years ago. Critics like Monica Cole from the 1 Million Moms podcast points out, the Bible tells us that God made us male and female and that holy marriage is between one man and one woman, viewing Miss Rachel's inclusivity as endorsing sin rather than true love. Now, by invoking love your neighbor without context, Miss Rachel is accused of ignoring the Bible's call to speak truth about sin. As in Ephesians 4:15 says, speaking the truth in love. Christian blogger Kim Jaggers warns that this approach confuses empathy with approval, stating, the father of all lies is skilled in taking the very words of God out of context. This is what Miss Rachel is doing, end quote. This is potentially leading children astray from the actual biblical truths that they're learning in church. Right-wing commentator Charlie Kirk, we all know, rest in peace, echoed this by quoting Leviticus 20:13, which condemns homosexual acts, to counter her claims, reminding that Satan quoted scripture plenty, but always distorted it. Broader implications for faith have also fueled boycotts among Christian parents, who see her content as part of a cultural war against traditional values, with figures like Matt Walsh leading calls to cancel her for promoting what they call vastly evil and inappropriate ideologies. Even her handling of other issues like fundraising for Gaza without the equal emphasis on Israeli children has drawn many accusations of bias that some tie to anti-Christian sentiments. Yes, she has done fundraising for Gaza. For Christian parents, this underscores the need for vigilance. Relying on seemingly innocent content without research can expose kids to worldviews that undermine biblical teachings on family, gender, and morality. Instead of outsourcing discernment, parents should investigate creators thoroughly or follow resources like this podcast, Project Lumify, which highlights potential risks in children's media to help families make informed choices and protect their children's spiritual formation. In 2026 of January, so this year, Miss Rachel took her activism to a new level, you won't even believe this, by collaborating with New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani, who's a self-described democratic socialist, often labeled as a communist by me and some of his critics, for his far-left policies and affiliations with the Democratic Socialists of America, DSA. The duo, the both of them, visited the Lower Manhattan Preschool Center, singing songs like The Wheels on the Bus to promote Mamdani's Universal Child Care Initiative, so everything was filmed naturally, which aims to expand free government-funded child care starting at age 2. Miss Rachel shared heartwarming stories on Instagram about Mamdani, practicing songs beforehand, praising his dedication to kids and educators, but critics blasted the partnership as an attempt to normalize socialist policies through children's entertainment, with Breitbart calling it a push for universal childcare that lets government, not parents, raise our kids. Mamdani, known for his pro-Palestine activism and criticism of Israel, has been accused of sympathizing with groups like Hamas, further tying into Miss Rachel's own controversies. Mamdani's controversial background includes him being a former rapper called Mr. Cardamom and a vocal advocate for policies like defunding the police and rent control. Mamdani's involvement raises red flags for conservatives who see this as indoctrinating toddlers into leftist ideologies. Miss Rachel was even named to his inaugural committee in December 2025, solidifying her role in his administration's push for government-led child rearing. Commentators like Aaron Mullen on The Rubin Report mocked the event as, quote, where the rot in young minds starts, end quote, highlighting Mamdani's influence alongside Miss Rachel's gay husband, referring to her spouse Aaron Accurso. This collaboration has drawn ire from Jewish communities and pro-Israel groups who label both as anti-Semites for their stances on Gaza. Throughout 2025, Miss Rachel dove headfirst into international politics by fundraising for children in Gaza amid the Israel-Hamas conflict, raising over $100,000 while vowing not to work with anyone who is silent on the issue. She defended her focus in interviews, saying, "I know who I am and I know what's right," but critics accused her of spreading Hamas propaganda and ignoring Israeli children affected by the war. If you've seen what's going on over there, I wouldn't recommend looking up photos. Backlash on her being anti-Semite of the year, or a nomination for it at least, was also addressed. Her post led to nominations for Anti-Semite of the Year by groups like Stop Anti-Semitism, with Reddit users calling her a dangerous anti-Semite and the mouthpiece for Gaza propaganda. The New York Times covered her wading into the Gaza debate, noting how it deepened divisions while parents worried about biased messaging seeping into her content. This stance aligns with Mamdani collaboration, as both have been criticized for anti-Israel views, with ex-post accusing the both of them for platforming Hamas sympathizers to children and child audiences. Critics argue this politicizes toddler education, turning playtime into propaganda time. Now, Miss Rachel's defenders praise her for fostering acceptance, but the evidence suggests a deliberate blending of education and activism that many find corrupt, using trusted kids' platforms to advance adult ideologies. From Hoffman, the profane anti-ICE chants that she had, the top surgery post that she had made, Dylan Mulvaney and his insane stuff that he's doing, I don't even know anymore. The Pride promotions, Gaza fundraising, socialist childcare pushes with Mamdani. Her choices have totally alienated parents who want neutral learning for their littles. As one ex-user put it, discernment belongs to parents, not YouTube. Stop outsourcing your children's formation. If her goal is truly child development, why would she risk it with diverse content? My PSA to parents is vet your kids' media carefully, because innocence does not need an agenda. Now, I'd be remiss if I just ended this episode without giving you any form of alternative or anything like that. We found quite a few online. One of the ones that just comes to the top of my mind is Classroom with Katie, or Katie's Classroom, I think it is, Katie with the C. There's also the Daily Wires program. Bentkey Angel Studios has their own app for, again, like kids content. Tuttle Twins has the basically American history version for kids. It's a little bit older than just 5. We kind of threw some of that up on YouTube, and my 2-year-old was very confused. But there are things out there that still have good traditional Christian values inside of them. These paid platforms like Daily Wire's Bentkey, and you can say what you want about the Daily Wire. That's like a whole nother video. Angel Studios and that kind of stuff. They seem to be okay, but they are paid. So when you're looking into like YouTube, what's already pre-existing on Netflix or Hulu, if you have like Hulu Live, so you're like basically have cable, essentially, I would highly recommend just using the free version of ChatGPT, or go on Google. It has a little AI summary mode now, and just basically use the same prompt every time. Is this show on Netflix called blah, 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 containing Christian traditional values, or are there any controversies around it? Is it trying to basically indoctrinate my kid to believe anything? The reason this actually matters at a higher level is because these kids see this as, let's say they're between 2 and 5 years old. This is something where the parents might throw it on, walk out of the room, and they're sitting there watching it for 30 minutes to an hour, whatever it is. Like I said, there's like YouTube playlist where it's just auto plays from one video to the next, right? So like, even if you watch the first one with them, the next thing coming in the queue, so to speak, you're not necessarily going to know what it is. I know that you want to go do the dishes or laundry, or just like take a break for a second. Early childhood's very demanding, physically, emotionally, and all sorts of things. But you need to be able to basically discern whether or not this stuff is going to be negative, because here's what happens. When they are between like 7 and 12, when they go through that identity crisis kind of phase of like, mom and dad aren't cool anymore, I don't want hugs, don't hug me in front of my friends. Like they're searching for identity. Back in the 90s, we called this like the emo phase, or the goth punk phase, whatever. I had the whole thing with long hair, the whole deal back then. And nowadays kids just decide if they want to be gay or not, apparently. So when they're brought up seeing all the, again, rainbows, is it really that big of a deal? No, they've totally disgraced what God meant for rainbows to be for us. But when it's something like basically, hey, I see, I'll name like Jules Hoffman, and I don't really mean to attack her specifically, but it's just a good example here. When they see someone like Jules Hoffman on, Miss Rachel's show, and then it's a suggested follow account inside of Instagram, or a TikTok of hers pops up, and then they follow that account, the F ice stuff and all of that kind of content is actually what they're going to be getting served from. Again, like not every 7-year-old has a phone, but it does happen all the time. Like, the excuse is we need a way for them to get home from school. They need to have a phone. They need to be safe, whatever. I get it. But like, yeah, Snapchat, YouTube, Roblox, even. I've made a couple reels about that, I think, on the Instagram page that we have. These platforms are where these influencers, or whatever you want to call them, start to speak to your kid on a daily level without any filter. So that's why Miss Rachel's getting a lot of flack from me in this video, is because she's not filtering down who these people are. There's like some other dude in the show, if I remember right. We haven't had this on in our home in like a year and a half probably now. I figured out about the first part of all this before the communist stuff and everything else that she's doing. But once we had, there were some normal people on the show. So like at first glance, it could seem normal, but again, follow this podcast, go do your own research. If you're looking at shows, I don't mean to like be like fear mongering or scary about this stuff. It seems like a lot of the content I post kind of is in that realm, but if you want your kids to accept Jesus at a young age, I can't see how this is really going to get them any closer. There's tons of like Minnow is another good one, Minno. You probably already know about that if you kids are going to like a Christian school or anything like that. But yeah, just be vigilant, be careful, guys. Like I said, I'll do my best to point some of this stuff out. Keep followed on our, wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast. We're going to post this to YouTube and Rumble as well, possibly even Facebook. And we'll have a lot of guests coming on. Again, we're not going to be talking all about just how to protect your children, which is obviously a very important subject, but things about gun safety. Going to, like, one of the upcoming episodes right now is how to teach your family what to do when your wife and kids say go to the gas station by themselves. Is she being aware of that? Is she getting in the car, locking the door immediately, keeping her head on a swivel and being aware of her surroundings? Does she carry a firearm with her or not? Does she license to carry it? Does she know how to use it? All that kind of stuff. So we'll be getting into some of that, even like more complex topics like finances and better ways for you to protect your family on a financial front, all sorts of stuff. So we're really excited. As I mentioned, we've got the Discord channel. So if you want to jump in there, you can literally basically say whatever you want inside of the moderator's rules in there. We'd be happy to have you a part of the conversation. You can throw in video ideas for upcoming podcasts and upcoming YouTube videos that we'll be posting. So thanks for listening, guys, and stay safe out there. God bless you.